What is going on YouTube? Gabus here, and today I am joined by my dear friend Mauro. Hi Mauro, how are you doing?
People. Fine, thank you.
Thank you for coming. So, you guys probably don't know Mauro. He has been a classmate of mine at university, and we're still in contact. How are you doing, Mauro? I don't know, present yourself and tell everyone who you are, what you do, and maybe some background about your story with Linux.
Yeah, I'm a software developer. I studied computer science with Gabriele in Sicily, in the sunny Sicily, and he infected me with the passion for free and open source.
To be fair, you already were pretty infected. I mean, you were the one that brought me like tile window managers.
That's true. That's true. I was using Linux since 2011, but when I met you, you were really persuading on trying new stuff and don't worry about broken stuff. And you put in me the passion of fixing broken stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's no fun when everything is just working, you know. And I think that's
Exactly.
something you can learn from. And besides, I mean, we were in computer science after all.
Yeah, that's the fun of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
I mean, yeah. Go on.
How did your journey with Linux started?
I think it's the most common scenario for Linux user. So I had this old crappy ThinkPad that couldn't run Windows well.
It's always like that, right?
So it's Linux or Linux. And I tried this Linux that everybody was talking about, and I was engaged on the first day. Stuff that didn't work, the terminal window, typing comments, and I was like, oh my god, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I realized only recently that in my early days when I used PCs, I was like, okay, yeah, fun, internet, games, but tell me how this thing works. And I was like, okay, there's the manual, you read stuff about Windows, how this works, how that works, click here, click there, but there wasn't really nothing that told you how the operating system worked.
Yeah, that's right.
There I was, using Linux and having everything I needed to understand what I was using.
I mean, it's
magic.
RTFM all the way down, right? With Linux.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
That's me. That's me.
Yeah, that's kind of some probably this thing that the wanting to tinker with your system and wanting to know like the inner workings of it is probably something that we all Linux users at some point get interested into. Not every kind of Linux user wants this from their system. I mean, particularly at this day and age, at this point, Linux isn't a tinker system anymore. Not necessarily, but still, there's this like pride in knowing how your system works, how your operating system works, and knowing that you can mess it up and just fix it in a matter of minutes, if not just a couple of hours maybe. If you're using something like, I don't know, Ubuntu, and you have to fix that.
Don't Ubuntu shame the people listening to us.
No, but in all seriousness, it's people. It's fine, people, if you like using Ubuntu. You know what you're getting yourself into anyway. So
yeah, that's true.
All right.
When you use something more tinkery like Arch, you know what you're getting. So
you know what? Recently, people. I mean, Arch has been hugely popular as of recently, particularly with like gaming and stuff, having like the latest drivers on the latest stack, and that's what like initially drew me to Arch in the first place. And lots of people are actually approaching Arch thinking that it's just like another distro, just go ahead and install. And I see people actually getting mad and not understanding what Arch is. I mean, newcomers, of course. And I mean, there's no shame in not being able to install Arch, particularly if you're just starting out with Linux. But it's just funny that the generation like we grew in, that we start the generation we start to use Linux in, we knew that Arch was like that untouchable milestone. Once you reach that, you were basically done, and the next step, the only next step would be Gentoo or something. But at this point, I mean, Arch is pretty usable to the point that distros like Manjaro or EndeavourOS are actually decently popular.
Yeah, that's true. Because they aimed at something and they achieved it. They have the bleeding edge, the least amount of stability you need, and that's gold for gaming and all these magic libraries that let you play games with 2 clicks, graphics driver ready to work. It's not like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and in a way, that's. I mean, I'm grateful that we grew from that point, because that wasn't feasible. Linux that on the desktop wasn't going anywhere if not for these like quality of life changes in the whole ecosystem. But at the same time, it's just weird looking how newcomers end up approaching like the Linux world, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's totally a different approach for a new user today. For Ubuntu, it's pretty similar, but for the other distros, it's totally different experience.
Yeah.
Even when you use the installers for Arch, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that ready to a new user, a new Linux user.
You needed to know what you were doing anyway. That's the point.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's right.
Anyway, what do you think we start with the first news of today?
Let's go.
Alright, so first news of today. Secure boot isn't all that secure, apparently. The BootHole attack on GRUB bypasses secure boot. And that was kind of a, I mean, when I first heard of that, I really thought we were screwed. I thought, oh shit. Oh, damn. Demonetized. Anyway, the point being, I mean, when I actually read the news and got to understand what this was all about, what I thought was more in the line of, huh, that's not all that big of a deal, right?
I don't know.
Do you think there are people that really care that much about secure boot? I mean, probably like in enterprise settings, and if your threat model is something like, I don't know, people having physical access to your computer. But for most of us, like normal people using our computers to do normal stuff, I don't think that's very much of a problem. Anyway, let's get into more details about what this problem was all about. This vulnerability seems to have been caused by a buffer overflow in the grub.cfg config file, and apparently by using this buffer overflow bug, attackers are able to inject malicious code into the bootloader and basically circumvent any form of secure boot, because at that point you can just execute any kind of code you want just from grub. So that's kind of the issue here, and honestly I don't think it's too much of a concern. I mean, people still need to have physical access to your computer. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if there is a threat model that allows the attacker to potentially have like remote access to your BIOS or something, where they can just access the file system and change stuff. But I don't think that's realistic. Possibly in some server scenarios, but at that point I think that you have other means of security, like, I don't know, even a BIOS password, or the what is it called, the interface that allows you to access the BIOS on servers, IPMI, something like that.
Yes,
I think that has
so.
some form of authentication or password protection anyway, right?
I think yes. I don't believe it relies on secure boot to be safe. I hope that.
Anyway, that's still a that's still a security vulnerability, and thankfully it's already fixed in Debian and Ubuntu. So the updates for GRUB are already out. So make sure you update right now, just in case. Even if, I mean, it's not too much of a deal, at least in my opinion. Just be aware that if you do have secure boot enabled and you care about it, you will also need to apply a new DBX UEFI revocation list on your system firmware. If you need any more info about that, just make sure to visit the support article for this bug on the Ubuntu wiki. I will just post the link in the chat right now.
So you think this is usable? You can use this this vulnerability even if you have secure boot off? No.
Well,
just if you're using it.
If
right?
you have secure, if your secure boot is off, is disabled, I mean, you can already execute whatever you want on any system. You can already put in a flash drive with some malicious code and execute it. And personally, I have secure boot disabled in my systems because I don't think that's a threat model I'm scared of. And besides, using Arch and tinkering with my system and having playing around with custom kernels on my systems, I don't think that's secure. It's too much of a moving target to use secure boot. I would have to sign all the boot images that I create. It's too big of an effort. And besides, where I really need to have some security and have my data protected, I have encryption in place. So either volume encryption or LLVM, that's plenty. So I don't think you can circumvent that in any way. So
yeah, that's true.
What about you? Do you care about secure boot? Do you have it in your systems?
No, since I don't use Windows, I never have secure boot enabled. But you know, it's something that is always there. You know, it's like microcode from Intel. You're like, yeah, I'm not scared because I'm no one, and no one is trying to hijack my laptop with physical access and stuff like that. But still, you know, it's always a little link in the chain that that make the way easier for whoever is trying to access your computer or your data.
Surely, I mean, maybe if this is combined with some other form of attack, this could be more dangerous. Possibly if you put a keylogger in the boot chain, this could be a problem. But again, exactly. It really depends on your threat model. If you don't think that's a possibility, I mean, if you don't have full disk encryption in your system, for starters, this whole thing really doesn't matter. If you do have full disk encryption, then maybe you can start caring about this stuff.
Exactly. If you don't have any prevention in your systems, so yeah, it's a big deal. If you already put some prevention systems in your system, so you're pretty much okay. Just patch your system.
Yeah,
please.
Patch your stuff. Someone used to say. Anyway, what do you think we move on to the next news of today?
Yeah, let's go forward.
So, the Linux App Summit 2020, the call for papers is open. I think this is very exciting. This very nice Linux conference hosted by both KDE and GNOME, the Linux App Summit, is getting closer. Since Wednesday, the call for papers has been open. So if you're interested in submitting at all, now is the time. You have up to September 15th when the call for paper closes. And I think that this is a very interesting, there's a very interesting thing going on with this conference, particularly for me, because this conference this year will be online only. And that's, of course, because of the current pandemic situation. And besides, even in a situation where, I mean, if the hosting country was COVID-free, supposedly, it would still be difficult to travel for many people. So I think this was a good choice at the end of the day. And as a positive note, this gives you the possibility to attend the conference yourself without having to travel from the comfort of your home. I personally hope I manage to attend it this year, as it's shaping up to be really exciting. What do you think?
Yeah, the fact that all these summit and meetups and conferences been moved on the digital world finally, it's real fun. I mean, I passed my time looking hold conferences because I discovered that it's not only the 2020 edition that is online, but every edition is online. I just
right. To be fair, many
went
conferences,
mad.
many conferences, to be fair, have like online recordings of the conferences, but I don't think it's the same thing because one thing is like if you're there, you can interact with the speaker and you can ask questions and you're there. But if you're just watching a pre-recorded video, it's not the same thing because you don't have that interaction factor. So being online only this year, I think it will make a difference in the sense that we can, like the audience from home can still interact, and it hopefully will be better.
Yeah, you know, these events are made for networking. So if you don't speak with other people, you are missing the point of these events. Totally, I agree with you.
Exactly. Unfortunately, it's not always easy to travel for many of us. If you have a job, I mean, and you're economically independent, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're a student like us, or like just starting out in the in like the adult world, not all that easy.
No, and COVID didn't make that easier.
Yeah, I mean, it made it possible for us to attend, at least.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, you know, all these new solutions for participation are fun and all, but it's still not the same. And it's maybe all those who plan these events are going to a bad route because they're thinking, yeah, we can do what we did for the past years, but we can charge for it, and I don't know, close the digital part of the audience just for who buy the tickets. Stuff like that.
Don't think that I think some conferences do that, but I don't think the Linux App Summit has any attendance cost at all. I mean, yeah, I think it's just you can just join it if you want to.
That's cool. That's cool.
I think it's always been that way, to be honest. I'm not sure, but I could be wrong here. But still, I mean, the ticket cost is probably like the least problem when
that's true.
When you have to travel and buy plane tickets. I think that's the highest expense there. So
that's true. It's just a fear of mine because you know you are used to go and pay and then fun and don't worry about the ticket costs. But if you attend the conference digitally and you used to do it for free because you're not there, you're missing, like we said, the whole point of the event.
Yeah, you're missing half of the fun in a way, and half of, I mean, what you can take out of it. Because at the end of the day, as you said, networking is like, I think it's, if not 90, it's 70% of why you're going there in the first place.
Yeah, the talks are fun, and some people just manage to create these pearls, these piece of art talks. So it's real fun to watch it, even if digitally or in the future without talking with them or with other people. But you know, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can make it at some point in our lives to one of these conferences. I just slightly missed the KDE conference, like it was called Academy. It was hosted in Milan, and I was supposed to go in Milan like 2 days after the conference ended. So I just slightly missed that, unfortunately. But what can you do about it?
Yeah. Damn you.
Anyway, these year topics for the Linux App Summit conference are ecosystem growth, so aiming to grow the selection of applications available on the Linux platform in an engaging and sustainable way. Platform diversity, focusing on technologies that allow truly cross-platform distribution. Innovation, aiming to find new technologies and techniques and exploring new ways to boost the Linux App ecosystem. people in communications trying to find a way to make companies find their niche in the Linux ecosystem, enabling possibly closer collaboration between communities and corporations, and legal and licensing, focusing on business models for open source projects and current issues related to licensing. So very interesting topics. It's really shaping up to be quite a conference, and some of these points I'm actually really interested in as a developer myself. I mean, these are quite interesting.
I'll pick your brain about the app ecosystem. Are you thinking to try some of the new stuff to run applications on devices like the Pine phone?
The new stuff to run applications, you're referring to Flatpak, snaps, all that kind of stuff?
It's all things you already did, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with Flatpaks for a while now. I haven't been involved with snaps because I don't really like the idea behind them, for the desktop at least. For anything else, I think they're pretty good. I mean, I've talked about my viewpoint on snaps quite a lot on the channel, in the live streams, and I don't think that snaps are inherently bad. I just don't think that they're right for the desktop. And as a developer of, well, desktop apps and, well, phone apps in a way, Linux phone apps, I really like working with Flatpak, and I think that for desktop applications, it's just a better platform, a better place to be in. And about like the applications, like the mobile application side of Linux stuff, I think that the two biggest toolkits for Linux, and I'm talking about GTK on one side and Qt and the KDE framework on the other side, they're both working hard on making it possible to have like convergent, responsive applications. And I think that we're mostly there at this point. On the GTK side, we have, thanks to Purism, now we have libhandy that's now officially part of GNOME. And I've been developing with libhandy, and I think it's just really awesome. It feels like it's part of GTK, and it feels like something that was just missing before. And to be fair, libhandy doesn't even just have stuff for mobile phones. It also has like very useful widgets and little stuff that you can use for desktop applications as well. So to be fair, that's a very interesting project. And on the KDE side, mostly the same thing. They've been working hard on the Kirigami project. It's like this new toolkit based on QML that allows to create mobile-friendly applications based on the KDE frameworks. And while Kirigami, the thing with Kirigami is that it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the current Qt/classic KDE framework experience or look and feel or whatever. They're probably trying to transition to this new like paradigm with Kirigami, because it's just very different. It's very reminiscent of the material design on Android phones, and I think it works in a way. Still, it's not really the same thing, but there's people in the KDE community still working on it. So I think that the interest is there, definitely.
So you think the main problem on the mobile world for Linux, it would be mainly the UI factor?
Well, of course, because at the end of the day, phones are computers, and they can run, particularly if you have a Linux phone, they can run virtually anything that's available for the particular processor architecture that you want to use in your phone. Or that is open source, because virtually most open source software runs on any architecture because you can just recompile it. So this makes it even more interesting for cross-platform and cross-compatibility, because if the project is open source, you can just recompile it on a different architecture, and you have 90% of the time the same software compiled for the right architecture, and you don't have to mess around with like compatibility layers and architectural conversions. So and that's the whole thing that Microsoft is trying to do with like trying to bring Windows to ARM is not an easy task, because they rely on a proprietary closed source app ecosystem, and all that app ecosystem, and the same goes for macOS, to be fair. They have dropped the bomb at this point, and they resurrected, what was that called again? The compatibility layer that macOS uses?
Oh man, I don't remember.
I used to know it.
Oh man, I don't remember.
Well, whatever, the thing that converts like x86 to ARM, whatever. And they're resurrecting that because, well, they need like the binary compatibility with x86. I don't know where that will go, to be honest. I don't really know, because it's not the same thing, particularly with ARM processors. ARM CPUs are not that powerful. They're powerful. I mean, they're plenty powerful. Particularly if you look at something like what Amazon has, like the big ARM servers with tons of CPU cores. Those things are amazing. Still, on a desktop consumer device, you don't have that kind of power to be able to have a compatibility layer in between ARM and x86. So either they try to solve that in silicon, so they have some kind of in silicon x86 compatibility tool or chip or whatever. I don't know if they can do that. They will probably have to license it from Intel and AMD, at least for the intellectual property that x86 brings with it. But at the same time, I don't think that's the way to go. In the open source world, in the Linux world, we have a big advantage because we have open source software, and most of the software that you will use on Linux is open source. And with that, you can just, recompile your software and compile it for ARM, no problem, and you can run Linux basically wherever. And if the compiler works on that specific CPU architecture, and if the program doesn't use any weird, like out of standard stuff that is not like cross compatible with other architectures, you can just recompile it, and that's it. So on the phone side, on like the convergence side, I think that we are advantaged. As far as the UI goes, that's the only missing part, really. That's the whole point of bringing desktop applications to mobile. You need a UI toolkit that can work on phones, and libhandy and Kirigami both do work very nicely on phones. They probably both need some polish, and they're very young projects at this point, but they do work, and that's the main point here. So all we need at this point is to build the ecosystem, to build that huge app store with thousands of apps. And that's not an easy task. As Windows Phone can attest, that's not an easy task, but still, we are a very passionate niche, and we're full of smart people, and I think that if anyone could do it, we can do it as a community. I think that's at least what I think.
We just need a device, a working antenna and radio library, and then we are good to go.
And that's what's basically stopping me from installing like post-market OS in this thing, because because it mostly works. I've tried UbiPorts recently on my OnePlus 5 with Project Halium. It worked surprisingly well. The only problem was that neither Wi-Fi nor GSM were working, so not usable, unfortunately.
Yeah, but so they had a lot of problem. PinePhone and the other one, I always forget the name.
The Librem 5?
Yeah, the Librem 5. They had problems with radio and antennas and Wi-Fi echoes and stuff like that during calls, if they worked at all.
Yeah, because that's like proprietary to like the silicon level, and it's not like there's any open source implementation of this kind of stuff, so they have to work with what they have.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're doing it. At some point, we will have Linux phones, and we already do to some extent. So I think it's just a matter of time at this point. We are, again, a very passionate niche, and I think that if we want something, we can just make it happen.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's move on to the next news of today. Jitsi Meet apparently has a desktop app for Linux and other platforms as well. So the popular open source WebRTC based video chat Jitsi Meet, that by the way we are using right now for this call, apparently has an Electron app that you can install in your system. And that's kind of weird. I didn't know that because Jitsi Meet is typically used inside the web browser, but apparently they do have this Electron app as well. Did you know about this?
No, I'm still mad at you for not telling me before the live.
I could have told you. I mean, but what fun is that?
It's not bad. The web application it has always worked for me, but you know, having a separate app, it's always my choice. You know, it's not good to have all these web apps and tabs in Firefox and stuff. There's always something that is going wrong.
I don't know about that. Like, I actually feel quite comfortable with my browser. Still, a desktop app specifically for Jitsi Meet, I think that could have some value. Mostly because, I mean, WebRTC is still kind of fiddly in some cases. And in particular, Jitsi Meet, they had some problems and some issues with like Firefox in particular. And apparently they solved it at this point. They solved all these issues at this point, apparently, because we're probably using Firefox, right?
Yeah.
We're managing to communicate with each other, so I think those problems are gone. But I mean, if you really want to have something that's probably tried and true and tested by the team, and if you just want to make sure that everything works without problems, the Electron app is a very interesting idea because you basically have like the Chromium browser that's probably optimized to work in this particular kind of scenario already built into this little app, and you can just use that and don't worry about anything not working.
That's true.
And that's true. The nice thing is that this Jitsi Meet app can be downloaded from the repo. By the way, the repo link is github.com/jitsi-meet-electron. I will post that in the chat right now.
You told me they didn't advertise the app on the website, right?
Yeah, that's right. I cannot find anything on the website about this app, which is weird. It makes me think that it's probably not there yet as far as like being ready for mass consumption. But I don't know, it's out there and you can download the app image. I think you can just try it out for yourself and see how it works. And it's now also available as a Flatpak on FlatHub. So if you prefer Flatpak, you can just install it that way and see how that works for you.
Yeah. Please tell us.
So if you manage to try it out, please let us know in the comments or in the chat. I don't think you have the time to. Oh well, if you already use that, you probably can tell something about it in the chat.
I'm scrolling down the GitHub repo for Jitsi Meet, the app, the Electron app, and it goes way back. There are commits from 2017.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's weird.
If it's from the core, so it's
I don't think so. I don't think so. This is like a separate project. It's Jitsi Meet Electron. I think this is just like this front end, and it's hosted on their GitHub organization. So I can only think that it's official. Still, it's weird that I've never heard of it. It's been like 2017 to now. It's 3 years.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Maybe it was private and they just make it public.
I don't know.
I really don't know.
Oh well, we'll try it out and probably report back if there's anything to add on top of this. Alright, let's move on to the last news of today. Invidious is shutting down its developer Omar Roth to step away from open source. So, this was kind of a sad news. If you don't know, Invidious was a privacy-respecting front end for YouTube. So it's basically just a web page you open. It's in invidio.us. So invidio.us. And it was just like a front end for YouTube. You could watch videos, and it wasn't like bombing you with advertisements and privacy violating, I don't know, scripts or something. And it was a very successful project. I mean, it had reportedly up to 35,000 users, about something around that. And according to the developer, he received too much feedback from people, and more than he could handle, to the point that he wanted to answer to some like interesting and actually noteworthy feedback that he received, but he just couldn't because he didn't have the time. And I mean, it was a very appreciated project, and it had very active donors on Patreon and LibrePay. But apparently, the developer Omar Roth, he says that he's not motivated by praise or money, which is understandable, and he just wants to step down from the project because he's tired and ready to move on after 3 years working on it. So again, understandable. It's kind of sad because Invidious was a very nice project, and it's not gonna shut down. Like, the project itself is not gonna shut down, because apparently the development of the open source project is still continuing with like the other contributors to this project. So it's still going forward, but the main instance will be shut down. So you will have to find, if you're using Invidious, you will have to find another instance you can use. So there's that.
It sounds like a recurrent story in open source.
Yeah, right?
You know, a single developer that faced the
burnout.
The great wall, the burnout from too much feedback, apparently. It's understandable, really understandable. But the sad thing is that we are not able to help these kind of developers.
I don't know if there's anything, I mean, like the community can do to help with this kind of problems, because so I don't really see where the problem. I can understand that for some people having so much, I mean, this kind of feedback, this like continuous influx of feedback can be tiring and can take it all on you, but at least I have never experienced this, and I'm led to think that I am not the kind of people that has too much trouble with this kind of thing. So possibly it's just that I don't it's just that I cannot like totally completely relate to this kind of problem. But at the same time, I think that if I had a project so successful, to have so many people giving feedback and commenting on it and reporting and so on and so forth, I think that I would just like try to split the leadership of the project between me and other people that I trust, so that I don't have to take all the burden of like maintaining it and reviewing the commits and merge requests and issues and whatever on myself. And I can, if I ever need to do something like that, I hope I can find the people to do that, because I mean, just letting a project die and stepping away from open source, going that far, I think that's kind of extreme, don't you think?
Yeah. One does not simply manage an open source project. It's complicated. I think you are right, and it's probably a really subjective problem. But on the long run, if you manage a big project, I think these kind of problems are gonna catch up anyway, if you don't plan this kind of traffic or attention.
Yeah,
if you don't have someone you trust.
I think you catch the point here. You have to plan ahead for these kind of projects. If you expect, maybe you didn't expect this, but if you expect to have some like this much interest in the project, of course, one person cannot possibly manage all of this influx of feedback and whatever. But having other people step in and give you help, and maybe they're already contributors, they're already people that have contributed code to the project that want to help out in any way they can, and splitting the work between like 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 people can already help quite a lot. And I think we can see that if we look at the model that the Linux kernel uses. I don't know if they're still using this kind of model, but I think they do. But I'm not sure. The model I'm referring to is like the dictator and lieutenants. So where you have a certain number of well, you have lots of contributors, lots of people that want to submit code, and you have lieutenants that review the merge requests and the issues. And if the lieutenants think that the merge request or whatever is worth the effort, they just forward it to the dictator, and at the end of the day, the dictator is the one that decides if this code is going to make it into a project or not. So I think this is a very successful project. Again, I'm pretty sure this is the model that the Linux kernel uses, and it has worked up to this point. So I think that trying to establish this kind of hierarchy in an open source project and planning ahead to making sure that you don't get burned out before you can actually do something about it, that could be the solution.
Yeah, and we know about a lot of projects left without any maintainer, and then just get back on their feet and came back like with a big success because, you know, more people just knew about the new maintainer and stuff like that. So I think it won't die. Invidious will live.
I hope it keeps living on, because it's a very nice, interesting project, and I would be really sorry to see it going away.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think this is going to wrap it up for today's episode. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been a good one.
All right. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate this. I really do appreciate you watching, you following this live stream. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. Remember to subscribe to the TechPills channel if you want more of this. Tune in 2 weeks for the next episode of the TechPills live stream, and make sure to join the TechPills community at techpills.technology/community. You can also find all the useful links and QR codes on the left of the video. Mauro, where can people find you?
Pretty much nowhere. I don't have any social. If you want, you can find me on GitHub, but I don't have much to see.
Well, that's the GitHub, right?
It's github.com/Bladrim. BLADRIM. Thank you, Gabriele, for having me.
Thank you for joining. It was very nice having you here in the show.
It's fun to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
We used to do it every day
at university. Instead of studying, we were just talking about Linux and all the things that we couldn't talk about with anyone else, really.
With nobody insulting us. No, you can insult us.
Well, we insulted each other, but that's fair
fun too.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you again, Mauro, for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next one.